everybody. Thank you for joining me to Reinventing the Worksheet. I thought this was real important because we have all these wonderful worksheets with great problems, but how are we using those to meet the needs of our students? So it's one of the big questions that we are going to answer today. So let's move on. So are they doing a worksheet? They look like they're having a whole lot of fun. Is this PE class? Is this, what kind of class is this? It sure doesn't look like an English language arts class. All right, so forget the fill-in-the-blank photocopies with pencils and erasers. This is Mr. John's class. His vocabulary worksheet today was larger than a desk. He actually took his kids outside. He taped it to a tennis court and he filled it with bright orange words that had to be captured from high-speed student guardians. Okay, so this is how it worked. The 4 members of the red team stood at one end of the playground. The rest of the class concealed the vocabulary words in their hands, ready to protect the words with all the running speed that they could muster. John shouted go, Mr. John did. He clicked the stopwatch, and the members of the red team sprinted to tag their vocabulary word holding classmates. They were some serious sprinters. They moved around, they jumped. You can see right here the note cards that they have in their hands. Mr. John had some there. Once they were tagged, the students had to give up their vocabulary word to the red team. Once the red team collected all their words, they went to their jumbo-sized worksheet to fill in the words in the correct blanks. So here they are filling in. So they worked together and they discussed the meanings of the vocabulary words with their group members. Each group filled in this large worksheet here. You can see that the students are quite engaged in what they're doing. They just finished up with a very kinesthetic activity. All of the 4 teams, they worked really fast to finish their challenge. In the end, the red team is the one that won, and it only took them 2 minutes and 45 seconds. So it was a way to quickly review vocabulary, but what I like is it only took 3 minutes. So this is an activity that wouldn't take a whole lot of time, but it is going to take quite a bit of prep time. I think that's the difference. So let's look at this, the magic of learning. Is it the instructional strategy, the how you teach it, or is it the content? I want you to take a second and I want you to fill out a response to this and answer it in your own words. Is it an instructional strategy, or is it the content where the magic happens? Well, guys, it's both. Schletke always says, who's the guru of engagement, he says that the engagement happens either with the work or with the instructor. If the work is not engaging, then the instructor or the instructional strategy has to be the engagement. If the work is engaging, then you don't necessarily have to have such a great instructional strategy to get it across. That's what's going to engage those students. So it's constant balancing act of where do I need to put my focus. All right, so we're going to talk about a couple of actual Kagan strategies, and what I like, the reason that I chose some Kagan strategies, if you're familiar with them, is they can take your boring old worksheet and make it the rigor increase, the ability for the kids to interact with the content increase. It teaches them communication skills, and that is a huge deal, especially in mathematics. So let's look at the first Kagan strategy. I really like Rally Coach. And take just a second, I want you to read the steps there for Rally Coach. The deal is you're going to have two students working together. You're going to have a student A and a student B, but only one of them is going to be actually working the problem. So between the two kids, you only need one worksheet per se. So the first one is the student is solving, but as they're solving, they have to explain aloud their thinking. They're tracking their thinking. They're going through the problem solving process, verbally talking to their partner. Student B can watch, they listen. If the person has some needs, they can still coach. They don't have the pencil in their hand. They are only coaching the person who's doing the problem. And then the big part is they praise it, praise the other person whenever the question is solved. So really building up on those social skills also. And then they go on to the next question and they switch roles. Student B actually solves the problem and they're explaining out loud, and student A is the person who is coaching and listening and watching and then praising. This is really a great way to differentiate also, because it's not like here are 20 problems, y'all finish them up. You could put 10 problems on a page and you might have some groups that finish, that never finish 4 problems, and then you might have some that get almost complete. I really like to put more problems than necessary, and then they can maybe choose which ones they want to do. They can skip around. They don't have to go in order. But then again, we're also not going to grade all of them. So it gives you, it's the activity that never ends. So a great way to use Rally Coach, if you look down in math, is using textbook questions, and those are worksheet questions. That might be your textbook questions out of Motivation Math would be great. Any kind of worded questions where there takes a lot of processing. Parts of a sentence, text analysis, and literacy. You can use this in science. There are lots of different places that you could use a Rally Coach. Okay, so here is a video. Let's watch this video of a Rally Coach. These are two students that are going to explain to you how it works and show you what that looks like.
We're going to do something called a Rally Coach, and that's where one of us will put our paper away, and it's like one person's the teacher and the other is the coach. So I would be teaching Hunter, and if I made a mistake, he would coach me back to where I'm supposed to be. Okay, so the sentence says, this whole house is one big mess. So we're going to need to capitalize the beginning of the sentence, and then, because that's capitalization, and then we'll need to go on to usage, and it has whole like a hole in the ground. So we'll need to make that WHOO. That's a homophone. And then it says one big mess, and then one is spelled like one, like I won something. So like, oh, and then I don't see any punctuation.
There's a punctuation tab.
Oh, okay. And then I don't think there's no spelling.
Okay. That's it. All right, so I want you to take a second and reflect on Rally Coach, and think about some ways that you could use this in your class in your upcoming unit or upcoming lesson. so the next one of the things that I really like is find someone who. Now, find someone who, here are the directions. You're going to pair up or sit with someone. You're actually going to change partners throughout this activity. So there's going to be lots of movement through the classroom, but it's movement with purpose. So they're going to pair up and they're going to sit down. A asks B and B answers. The first person praises the second person, and then they switch roles. And then B praises A. They thank their partner, and then they find a new partner. And then they, until they're finished. So this one, I really like it because the paper that they're going to turn in is really someone else's work. So they are trying to find someone who knows how to do a problem. So let's look at the way, this is a very simple first grade example. So the person who has this paper, they're going to put their name at the top, and then they're going to find someone who understands how to do this problem. So let's see, if they were doing this problem, I would find Johnny, and I'd say, Johnny, do you know how to do this problem? And he would say yes, and so he would fill it. I would say, well, blank plus 6 equals 12. And he would say, well, that's 6. So that means 12 minus 6 is 6. Great. And so since I was talking to Johnny, I'm going to write Johnny's name right here. So when I turn in my paper, my handwriting is looking a lot like some of your students. When I turn in my paper, I actually have lots of other people's work on my paper. But what that does is the person whose paper it is, they want to turn in the correct answers. So they're checking each other's work. And they're also, it builds teamwork and collaboration amongst your group. So it's a great activity for math problems. They can be simple or they can be complex. So I really encourage you, you could even just make a template, and in each one of these squares you could put different word problems. Since this is a first grade, maybe beginning of second grade, depending on what time of the year it is, they could do this, and then when they're finished, they turn it in. Great activity to involve all kids, the moving around, but again, it's the purposeful movement that keeps the chaos from happening. Okay, so let's. All right, so this is really great for a review, and it's also great for math problems. So you want to have the students answer one at a time. Maybe you might set a timer and says, okay, everybody find your first partner, and then you give them 2 minutes, and then they go and find another partner to where they have a total of 10 partners or 10 questions or 9 questions, however you choose to do this. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and take a break real fast, and I want you to fill out a reflection on when might you use find someone who in class. All right, Sage and Scribe. This is one of my favorite structures in math. It builds math vocabulary, it builds cooperative learning, it builds the ability to communicate about the math that we're doing. And so you're going to need a whole lot of questions in your content. It can be worksheets. The problems out of motivation math would be great. One student from a pair, they begin by saying out loud how they would solve the problem given in a step-by-step manner as their partner writes down the process. So one student is using nothing but verbal communication to tell the other person what to write. So if the person that's solving is unsure, their partner can coach them. Okay? Roles are reversed on the next problem. One accommodation that you can make on this is that if your focus is truly vocabulary, then you could have the problem already solved, and the person who is the sage, the person who's doing the talking, will actually talk through the problem with, but they'll have the correct answer in front of them. So they have to use the proper math vocabulary so that the other person understands what they're saying. Okay? So make sure that they're saying the steps out loud, and then the partner is recording the steps. You want to make sure that they understand why, you want them to discuss why the students are doing the sage and scribe. And then you can also introduce it in a really fun way. This is one of those where, like, you have the directions to draw a house, and they have a house, and they have to describe to the other person how to draw it without showing it to them. So that's a great way to introduce this one, so it's non-threatening. So anyway, I really like Sage and Scribe. It's great for math. If you, would you go ahead and I want you to fill out a reflection on how you think you might use Sage and Scribe in your classroom. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any interest in going online and looking at other Kagan structures, this is the website. If you Google Kagan, it comes up. They've been around for a long time, and they're all cooperative learning strategies for your classroom that they can use, and the kids really, really enjoy them. So thank you for joining me, and let me know if you have any questions.